Hello everyone, and welcome to our monthly Hazardous Webinar series, where we take a closer look at our annual Natural Hazard Research Australia's initiative and explore how research can be translated into practice. My name is Professor Cheryl Desha, and I am the Science and Innovation Director here at Natural Hazards Research Australia. We commence today with our acknowledgement of country. We are all gathered from across a range of different Aboriginal lands today, where sovereignty has never been ceded. I'm a guest here on Yagara Turrbal country here in Meanjin in Brisbane. I pay my respects to the Yagara Turrbal elders past, present and emergent, and also to any First Nations people who are joining us online today. These lands and waters across our country have always been places of teaching, research and learning. And thank you all for joining us today. Today's webinar will be recorded. A link along with any presentation materials will also be shared in the coming weeks. Please let us know if you have any technical problems by adding the details to the Q&A function, which is at the bottom of your screen. And our team will be happy to troubleshoot any of those issues with you so you can make the most of the time we have during the webinar. We've set aside time for your questions to be answered at the end of the formal presentation. So add your questions or comments or feedback to the pitch teams, to the Q&A function. They would love to hear from you and we'll share those details with them after today. This is the time that you can make a difference to their presentations. Please do so. Please ensure you specify who your question is for, or perhaps it's for everyone, in which case just say everybody, and we'll get to specific questions in the last 10 minutes of the webinar. So you've got time to think. Please let us know the questions up ahead so I can make the most of that time with you. Today we are joined by our 2025 Disaster Challenge finalist teams to explore their innovative ideas and how they can make a real difference around Australia and even beyond. Last week's final Pitch Fest was the 4th annual Disaster Challenge, with the bar continuing to be raised each year in ideas and ways of presenting. This year's Disaster Challenge asked our early career minds from around Australia, these could be undergraduate, postgraduate and early career researchers. Are you one of them? Could this be you next year? Keep that in mind. To use their creative talents to develop solutions to real-world, wicked problems facing Australian emergency and resilience services and our communities around the country. The Disaster Challenge is a research-informed challenge, looking broader than the traditional emergency management operational environment necessarily, and thinking about what new, different and exciting ideas our finalists could possibly come up with. Well, they're going to share that with us today, and perhaps they might just shake up how we do things herein. We didn't expect our finalists to solve their problems, but we are looking for concepts or kernels of ideas that can grow and shape to help us take a step in that right direction. This webinar is their online opportunity to showcase their innovative ideas on a virtual stage to connect with you, the audience, and receive valuable feedback that can help shape what comes next. Online is quite different to in person, so we really do appreciate you turning up to support them in this capacity. This year's Disaster Challenge was, how can we innovate our infrastructure, physical, social, green, any type of infrastructure, community and place, to enable effective and affordable, community-led, place-based disaster resilience. This could be at any scale for local communities, local government authorities, state government, or at a national level. A tricky question, and the teams really had a great go. We had 18 submissions this year to the challenge, and today you're going to hear from those 3 finalist teams. Let's get into it. They're going to present their express pitch in 10 minutes with some follow-up questions to them. Our first team is the runners-up team, Team Verge to Vital. So please, in a big virtual round of applause, can you help me welcome Evelyn Liu, Anjali Paditha, and Sebastian Bernal Garcia from Griffith University.
Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. So my name's Anjali. I'm here with Evelyn and Sebastian, and we're all PhD students from Griffith University. And today we're going to talk to you about why our cities need to grow wild again to reduce flood risk. So Queenslanders are no strangers to flooding, and early this year Cyclone Alfred brought intense rainfall that once again caused flooding in several Brisbane suburbs. An event like this reminds us that while extreme weather plays a big role in the way that our cities and residential neighbourhoods are built, also shapes how flood events unfold. Now, urban areas are particularly flood prone because hard surfaces like roads and concrete paths have paved over nature, preventing water from soaking into the ground, causing rapid runoff that overwhelms drainage systems, and even short, intense storms expose weaknesses in this infrastructure, while driving up economic costs, insurance risks, and causing community disruption. Economic losses from extreme weather have tripled since the 1990s. The most recent figure shows that extreme weather events now cost Australians around $4.5 billion a year, ranking Australia as the second in the world for extreme weather-related losses. And at the same time, 8 in 10 homes at severe or extreme risk of flooding have no flood insurance. And a key driver of these economic losses is that our infrastructure is not designed for current or future climate extremes. And there's a misconception that the transformation to nature-based solutions is costly, there's no room for them in our urban areas, and collaboration among stakeholders is difficult, and that maintenance is too high. But we will bust these myths with our idea. There's an urgent need for systemic, future-focused solutions to reduce hazard risk. And to build truly resilient cities and suburbs, we need to think beyond concrete and embrace progressive, nature-based solutions that work with the landscape while incorporating smart technology and bringing people together.
No. What are you talking about? Everything is working fine. Sorry to interrupt you, my dear citizens. My name is Sir Mowington, the protector of grass, and I cannot allow this rebellion to happen.
But wait, Sir Mowington, we're proposing a holistic framework that turns grey infrastructure into a solution using nature, digital technology, and community. So by councils and community working together to transform underutilised urban spaces, turning them into bioretention areas like bioswales and birch gardens, and maintaining connection in one place through our app, which is called Our Verge. And concrete drains like this are in cities and neighbourhoods, and while they're designed to rapidly move water, it can also increase downstream flooding and erosion. But what if we turn something like this into a vegetated swale? It's a sloped channel designed to slow and absorb runoff. It filters pollutants, allows water to soak into the ground using vegetation, soil, and rocks. And likewise, a birch or a nature strip garden transforms a typical patch of grass into a low-maintenance native streetscape that contributes to neighbourhood flood resilience. To show you how effective this solution is, we have photos of our demonstration. So the first photo shows 3 containers, each with 500 mils of water. The sponge represents a bioretention area, the towel represents a lawn, and the plastic container represents concrete surface. After submersion, you can see that the sponge has absorbed most of the water, the lawn has absorbed some, but not all, and the concrete has absorbed no water, meaning that all of this water will run off and end up in our waterway. Now, how does this look in real life? So this is Hanlon Park in Brisbane. It used to be a long concrete drain. Water rushed through, there was no wildlife, no shade, and it didn't offer much to the community. Now this concrete channel has been turned into a bioretention area with native plants and trees, and it's a place for community. It was redesigned with flood resilience in mind, and the landscape now acts like a sponge. The vegetation helps filter the water, it cools the area, and the wildlife has returned. And this space supports biodiversity. During heavy rain from Cyclone Alfred, it held up pretty well and it recovered quickly. And this change didn't come just from government. It started with community, local bushcare groups who cared for the space and pushed for something better. Now it's a place that people love and use. It's a shared community asset. So our proposal pushes for local governments and community to work in partnership to repurpose underutilized spaces into living, multifunctional landscapes that reduce flood risk.
Okay, you have convinced me. That's a great idea. But how we can make this idea to really work?
Well, Sir Mowington, for this idea to work, collaboration is the key. No one can do it alone. Across Australia, many councils are already adopting green infrastructure solutions, but not yet at the scale that we really need. We spoke to Brisbane City Council Creek Catchment Officer, Wesley Demuth, who is leading the Community Conservation Partnership Program. He shared that one of the biggest challenges isn't awareness, it's the social cohesion. People care, but it's hard to get everyone working together. Right now, the data and responsibilities are scattered across different key stakeholders like government, councils, residents, and community groups. Everyone wants to help, but the coordination is difficult. That's why we are proposing an app that brings everyone and everything together, make collaboration simple and action easy.
An app? What kind of witchery is that?
It's not witchery, Sir Mowington. So let me show you. This is a prototype that an app we have built. It's called our Verge app. You can just scan the QR code and give it a try. It's a community app that helps people to discover and care for the local green space like Bellswell and Verge Garden. Even you have a map, so you can see the nearby local green spaces. So you click on it and you can see the details like the health status, for example, like the soil moisture, pH, and water levels in real time, and the native species as well. So people can lodge in maintenance report, leave comments, and share updates as well. So this is an app that brings the key stakeholders like government, council, residents, and volunteers together, all in one place.
Okay, but I think if you want to take this idea even further, you can install on those bioretention areas sensors that can collect a different range of environmental data, such as temperature, soil moisture, bioindicators, and water level. These sensors are low cost, open source, adaptable to different contexts, and can complement other measurement networks.
Thank you, Sir Mowington. So most of us, we are familiar with the traditional gray infrastructure, just like the pipe, drain, concrete canals. So they are cost to build and maintain, which is very costly, and they don't give back much to the environment. In contrast, like the bioretention areas and such as like the bioswale and the green rainwater garden. So it delivers growing environmental and social value over time. As you can see from the right, there are benefits such as flood risk reduction, social interaction, and biodiversity. So there is always a misconception that it's costly and hard to maintain. Once this bioretention area is established, they mostly look after themselves and have low ongoing cost. By adding the social and digital solutions, things like sensors and community engagement, just like investing in an app. So they don't cost much, but it boosts huge impact. We can monitor performance and improve social cohesion. So the takeaway is simple. These approaches give us more value, save money in long term, and take pressure off on the insurance cost and recovery cost. So as you can see from the graph, so when flood damage and disaster risk actually increasing over the years, as we know that the old infrastructure system we rely on can't keep up. So when the flood risk, not only just water we are dealing with, it affects the insurance, housing, the business, community networks, and all the recovery efforts. So it's far more than just an engineering problem. With the extreme weather today, we can't keep depending on the old design standards that we built for 20 to 50 years. Shifting from gray infrastructure to green infrastructure, yes, it helps, but it's still not enough on its own. We need adaptive measures. The measures that can connect people, nature, and technology together, that can learn and respond and recover quickly. That's where our approach comes in. We need cities that can adapt, recover, and bounce back from more intense and frequent disaster events. At the heart of it all is our app. So our Word Chat actually brings people together, turning data into actions, and even can scale into different disaster types. It's not just about resilience, it's about creating a place that are truly ready for future.
Thank you for inspiring me. I have changed. What about you?
Well done, team. Firstly, you nailed the 10-minute brief, so well done from taking it from 15 to 10 minutes. So Moington, your hairstyle looks even better online than it did in person.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I have a couple of reflection questions for the team. Can you help me with what did you learn about collaboration through the challenge? Just a couple of minutes. So how did you experience that, team?
Yeah, I think collaboration is really the key to make this presentation successful, because we have worked with like the Brisbane Council officers, we have worked with a lot of professionals and also the community group. So this is one of the ideas and discussions that we have discussed through. So this is really connect us together and know like what is the critical gap that we wanted to discuss on and venture into. So this presentation actually have a lot of people contribute into it, and there are a lot of minor points that we can learn from each other. And this is a great event that we can communicate and bring everyone together.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you, Evelyn. Second question for the team. What's next to make this app real? Where do you see the biggest opportunity for impact here?
Well, I think the biggest opportunity for impact is demonstrating that these bioretention areas, and particularly the verge gardens in cities, residential neighborhoods, can be a part of the wider disaster resilience strategy. It's a low cost, it creates opportunity for collaboration, it encourages that shared stewardship as well, and it turns everyday spaces into living infrastructure, bringing that biodiversity back as well.
How do we make this real, team? So Moington, any ideas?
I think we have to try not lose the momentum we have gained.
Yes.
That's the hardest part. And just this is good that people is listening to our idea and keep pushing to that.
Amazing. What a finish, Sir Moington. Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, Angelise. Thank you, Sebastian. If you're out there listening to this or watching this and you think this app is a great idea, please send your feedback to the team. Get in contact with them. This is the team's project. NHRA is just facilitating the ideas coming to life. We'll move on to the next team now. A big round of virtual applause for you. Okay, so we will move to our second runner-up team for this year's Disaster Challenge, Ryan Turner from RMIT, and his idea, Digital Twin for Real-Time Flood Insights. Over to you, Ryan, and a big round of virtual applause.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan. I'm a PhD student in geospatial science at RMIT. I'm also a research assistant at RMIT's Center for Urban Research. And today I'll be talking to you all about a digital twin for near real-time flood insights. So imagine a 3D interactive application that enables live flood tracking, future flood prediction, and a historical flooding viewer all in one accessible tool. So as a step forward from simply overlaying static flood extent polygons onto 2D maps, advances in digital twin technology can now enable high-resolution insights that are dynamic and update in near real time that reflect changes in the real world. So as we all know, flooding disasters within Australia are a unfortunately common occurrence. Several records indicate that an increased risk of flash flooding is happening within urban areas. Many research is telling us this, and we know that floods are a genuine problem that are only going to become more impactful if collective human response to flooding disasters does not innovate. So we can't prevent floods from happening. However, opportunity exists to better manage flooding disasters through timely warnings and faster responses. and this can be realized through data-driven solutions. Recent advances in digital twin technology can now enable the realization of high-resolution and high-frequency insights into the urban fabric. So what is a digital twin? Essentially, it is a digital replica of a physical entity that has some sort of live connection to the real world through various sensors and devices, such as satellites, weather monitoring stations, or CCTV cameras. And these sensors and devices can be grouped together under the umbrella term called Internet of Things, or IoT. And for the application of flooding, a digital twin can support decision makers with near real-time insights that enable timely delivery of crucial interventions that previously would not have been possible, simply due to a lack of information reaching these people at the right time. So what do we need to build a digital twin? The data requirements can be separated into the two categories of static and live. So firstly, static involves elevation data, road infrastructure, building models, and various other elements of the built environment, such as trees and vegetation. However, the live data category, which is data provided by IoT sensors, these include rainfall and river gauges, soil moisture sensors, and CCTV cameras. So now I'm going to tell you just like a small story about a project that I started during my master's dissertation with Dr. Chain Sun from RMIT. And this was all about applying the concepts of digital twin technology to near real-time responsive flood event representation. And we focused on the two local government areas just northwest of Melbourne CBD. We developed an application using a tool called Cesium, which displayed this the terrain and the built environment in a 3D interactive tool. Integration of data from the water sensors included accumulated rainfall over the past 24 hours and live river level heights. This then enabled us to compute statistics in near real time, which included the number of flood-affected buildings and the total flooded land area. And as the sensor data updates every 6 minutes, so does the flood extent visualization and the associated statistics as well. Here's just a demonstration of the interactive and responsive user interface. So as you can see, you can zoom in and zoom out. You can pan around, explore the interface. And this is just within a web browser. So anybody with an internet connected device can access this application. There's no need for any specialist hardware or software. And then by clicking on these buttons here, we can see just how quickly we can fetch the live data from the IoT sensors. And then once certain predetermined thresholds have been met, then a flood extent visualization is added to the viewer. And some close-up images here just show the high resolution insights that can be made possible through this kind of application. So with all this context, advances in digital twin like technology and local research case studies that integrate live data, we can ask ourselves, what future opportunity does all of this present for the Australian context? And we believe that further research can enable a flood digital twin for Australia to be effectively realized. We envision this tool as having three core functions. Firstly, live flood tracking. Emergency services need this kind of functionality to better manage their flood disaster response. The kinds of crucial information that can be conveyed in near real time include on-demand data-driven insights, such as flood-disrupted access to critical facilities such as hospitals. And spatial analytics, supplemented with live data streams, ensures that these outputs are updated at regular intervals to reflect changes in the real world. Secondly, future flood prediction. To ensure that flood warnings are timely and also targeted, weather agencies need advanced flood modeling techniques that quickly enable testing of various flooding scenarios. And the latest research shows us that the latest models can perform computations up to 1,500 times faster than traditional physics-based flood modeling techniques. And thirdly, a historical flooding viewer. So as floods become more and more common, effectively communicating the risks is an important task for insurance companies and education providers. So combining digital twin technology with virtual reality and game engines is another feasibility that has been demonstrated by recent research that immerses users into locations that are personally known. And this provides an immersive personal context that static maps cannot show. Impact on infrastructure is another important consideration. So in terms of physical infrastructure, IoT sensors are the only thing necessary. Often these are already existing non-obtrusive entities that are scattered throughout the urban setting. And advances in this technology are only making suitable sensors cheaper and more accessible. In terms of social and community, a digital twin that allows users to interact with flood visualizations in places that are personally known to them provides a much more tangible experience of flooding impacts. This can also promote awareness of the dangers of flooding. So by visualizing the speed at which floodwaters can rise can be confronting. However, it is an important learning experience when it's done so virtually. Benefits can also be seen in community infrastructure, as a flood digital twin can complement urban planning practices by providing insight into flood risk zones. One of my previous slides showed some examples of the kinds of static data that are needed for a flood digital twin. All of these were sourced from the publicly available Digital Twin Victoria project. With this example, at least within metropolitan Melbourne, we already possess all of the components necessary to at least realize a prototype flood digital twin. And through my own experience of developing this prototype tool, it became clear to me that great potential is being missed due to the concept of data silos. This refers to the idea of data being stored and managed independently. They are isolated and they do not communicate. And I believe what is needed now is refreshed data governance frameworks to help promote more transparency and tighter collaboration between organizations across industries to pull together their resources and increase opportunity for collaboration. So digital twin does need vast amounts of data from various different sources. However, when this is effectively realized, such as in the case study demonstrated today, the results are, they do show promising potential that simply could not have been possible without enrichment from these multiple data sources. That's it for me. Thank you for listening.
Well done, Ryan. You also were absolutely on time. Much appreciated. Is an important part of pitching to have the audience expectation around timing met. Done.
Yep. Thank you.
Let's reflect on your pitch for a moment. My first question is around scalability. Your case study exploration focused on 2 local governments. Yeah, they had in Melbourne. How could this be scaled up, translated to elsewhere, places elsewhere in Australia?
Yeah, well, the case study, we intentionally made sure that the software architecture was open source. So the kind of technologies that we were using, there's no like paywall. You don't have to, there's no specialist kind of necessity for these kind of things. And because it's open source and it's flexible, we try to ensure that it can be scalable. So if you wanted to replicate this kind of case study within Brisbane, you could easily do that. You're just using different building models in different locations, but the essence of the data is still the same, and the technical architecture supports that.
That sounds pretty cool, Ryan. So the technology and the systems there, it's about people perhaps sharing their information into that same place to be able to experience the benefits that you've shown us from those 2 case studies.
That's right. Yes.
Sounds pretty awesome. All right. The second question from me is, could you talk a little bit more about the kinds of sensors that are required to enable that live connection within a digital Earth environment?
Yeah. So traditionally, you can use river heights or rainfall sensors. These have been around urban areas of Australia since the 1970s, I think. We already have this infrastructure, but I guess one kind of thing to think about is expansion to more regional areas where there's kind of not as like the coverage of the sensor network is perhaps not as strong as it is within urban areas. But recent advances in technology, these low-cost sensors that transmit the same information that is needed, are becoming more and more common. I know there is a group called Open Flood Gauge who are developing this exact thing. They're making low-cost sensors for deployment in regional areas to help maintain the same level of connectivity that urban areas have.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Ryan. Well, all the best. Thank you for your pitch today. If you are listening and or watching Ryan and you are inspired by the opportunity for digital twins in near real-time modeling, flood modeling and visualization to really appreciate what's going on and perhaps lesson learning after the fact and lesson learning before the fact in educating and training up for professional development, be in contact with Ryan. Pop your question and or comment into the Q&A here and we can follow up accordingly. Thank you so much, Ryan. Big round of applause and we'll move on to our third team. I'd now like to hand it over to our 2025 Disaster Challenge winning team called Thriving Coastal Futures in Southern Tasmania, or Thriving Coastal Futures for short. Speaking with us today is Dr. Malcolm Johnson from Huon Valley Council and Bianca Suarez from the Australian National University. Other members of the fabulous team include Edith Shum, Kiana Gallagher from the University of Tasmania, Hevi Kurnia-Hardini from the Australian Maritime College, and Rosie Katiner from NRE Tasmania. And all of these team members are affiliated with the Centre for Marine Socioecology. So thank you so much, team. I'm going to pass to you and take us away on your journey.
Great. Thank you, Cheryl. I'm Malcolm Johnson, presenting with Bianca on behalf of our team from the Center of Marine Socioecology. Today, we'll be sharing a story about one of the most inspiring communities that I get to work with every single day, part of my job at Council. More importantly, we'll be sharing our solution to a massive problem they've been dealing with, which we call Coastal Futures Collabs Pilot, or the Coastal Future Collabs. And this is a project that reimagines how communities, nature, and government can actually work together to build genuine coastal resilience in our at-risk coastal communities. And it's a project that's more than just protecting beaches or properties. It's about protecting people, ensuring livable futures, and guaranteeing that we have the types of infrastructure, and not just hard infrastructure, to be ready for an uncertain future. But before we continue, I want to also acknowledge the Molucca and Lalaquani people of the Southeast Nation. These are the traditional custodians of the lands and waters on which I live and work every single day, as well as the lands and waters on which our project takes place and is deeply connected to. And these are traditional custodians who've been caring for coastline for tens of thousands of years and understand that coasts are highly dynamic and that we need to have deep knowledge and flexibility when we work and live along the coast. So again, this is a diverse team that we came with our ideas with from lots of different backgrounds. You can see the names here and happy to introduce to any of the other team members besides Bianca and myself, but not on this slide. And most importantly, the team that matters most is the community, the Garden Island Sands, Garden Island Creek community. And rather than me just going right into the problem, I potentially will let them jump in and then I'll provide some more context.
I'm Kelsey Fractal, and I live in Garden Island Creek.
My name's Angela Bird and I'm a member of the Friends of Garden Island Creek Land Care Group. We bought this property in 2020. It's obvious that there was erosion, but it's over the last 5 years since we've owned the property, it's got a lot worse.
There was an obvious erosion scarp and you could see that there was a problem. A lot of large trees had fallen down on the beach. There was a lot of stumps and things littering the beach.
The trigger was the removal of the boat ramp, and the the difficulty that then placed on the community being able to get onto the beach.
I don't even come here anymore to walk my dog because you can't even really safely get on the beach.
And it's not just this Garden Island Sands community along this strip here, it's the whole Garden Island Creek community, plus people from other parts that come here, particularly in summer.
It makes me more sad for the people that live here, and I worry about what's going to happen to them. These aren't like $1 million houses with people, they're not second homes, these are people's lives. I worry about what's going to happen to them and their assets. The fact that it's on Crown land and that we need both parks and council, we're kind of stuck between them.
It's frustrating when you can't do anything about it. You want to find a solution, and we've kind of discussed solutions and how we could approach the issue, but it's been very, very difficult working with the Parks Department, and they don't seem to want to work with us. We've got getting some support from council now, but as far as actually making something happen, it's going to have to be the community that does it.
We just need some support. Communities have the power to achieve great things, and sometimes it's better to just give them a little bit of assistance and let them solve the problem.
Thanks to Kelsey and Angela for that. So to provide some more context, Garden Island Sands is a community around an hour or so south of Hobart. It's quite a beautiful community right along the beach, about 52 households, 18 of which are right along the coastline. And as you heard in that video, around 5 years ago, the boat ramp was removed. And over the last 5 years, this community has done absolutely everything they've been told. They've been told to do research, so they did research. They were told to get funding, they got funding. They were told to write plans and management plans and mini reports, and they did all of that. And yet still 5 years down the road, nothing has changed. Historically, for this community, it was originally a shack community, as many of our coastal communities in Australia were. Over the last several decades, that has increased, and as you heard, it is now mostly family homes, private residences, and a place for people to retire. The one reason that draws all these people in is the beach, a beach that is the most important natural value to this community, and a beach that in the last several years has seen a massive increase in the erosion rate. The image you're seeing here is from a report that the community actually funded and developed themselves with the support of coastal experts. As I mentioned, there's been a change in behavior in the coastal erosion here, likely due to sea level rise, with our leading coastal geomorphologist in Tasmania, Dr. Chris Sharples, calling this community an early responder to sea level rise. And on the next bit, you'll sort of see every single day this community wakes up and they're seeing the erosion happening and getting worse. I was just down in Garden Island Sands yesterday, and even within a month from us filming to then, the beach has continued to erode. While this is a problem for Garden Island Sands and for around 30 communities across Tasmania, this is also a national risk, a national issue we're dealing with. In the National Climate Risk Assessment, coastal communities and the risk to coastal communities has been identified as a priority risk, with the current risk being moderate. I would say in some of these communities like Garden Island Sands, the current risk is probably much higher than that. And in 2050, which isn't far off, this risk is only getting worse. So sort of summarize what the problem we are trying to solve is that the core of this is the erosion, the sea level rise, the impact on the natural values of the community. Second to that is sort of the community emotional and psychological response to seeing their community sort of disappear right before their eyes. And then the third issue at the core of this is a government that's just really not ready to deal with this problem. Between state and local government and who's responsible and who does what, really at this point, the default approach has just become do nothing.
So because of the multi-dimensions of this problem, we're proposing a transdisciplinary solution that enhances blue-green infrastructure, social infrastructure, and governance infrastructure. Our innovation lies not just in what we build, but in how we build it. So introducing Coastal Future Collabs Pilot. So this is an engagement tool for councils to support communities dealing with rapid coastal erosion. We seek to empower local communities like those in Garden Island Sands through initiatives like citizen science initiatives, outdoor counseling, and community policy engagement to help create a more holistic approach and response to coastal erosion. We're not proposing new technologies. Instead, our innovation is to bring them together and offer councils a holistic approach to engage and empower communities. So our innovation is first, the transdisciplinary nature. Second, we're placing our communities at the center of our response. We're also developing policy from lived experience by those most affected by coastal erosion. And we've designed this in a way that's flexible so it can be adapted to other areas across Australia. So for Garden Island Sands, we've developed this 3-part pilot responding specifically to their needs. So it includes working bee groups that will implement nature-based solutions and the introduction of a coast map so they can monitor coastal erosion over time. We'll also be doing climate anxiety workshops and nature connection recordings where people can share their stories and help drive policy. We'll also be bringing together council and community to help with these policy discussions and come up with a proposal to present to local politicians and hopefully drive coastal policy in Tasmania. To make sure this is effective and affordable, we're partnering and utilizing local expertise and organizations. So most importantly is the Friends of Garden Island Creek, who you heard from earlier. They will be the volunteers that implement these nature-based solutions and bring the community together. We will also be working with Huon Valley Council, who have some resources that they can share and expertise to connect the local community with the broader political environment. And lastly, we will draw on the expertise of ecologists and psychologists from the University of Tasmania and the Center of Marine Socioecology to really have a whole holistic response to coastal erosion.
So ultimately, the big goal of this was to not just solve a problem in Garden Island Sands, so that's where my interests lie most. There's also to sort of scale this up nationally. We know that in Australia, we have about 85% of Australians living within, along the coastline, which ultimately means that we can't just rely on top-down, state-level governance responses. We need to create responses to coastal erosion that are locally centered and community-led. So to sort of answer the main question at the core of the disaster challenge around effective and disaster resilience ways that are effective and affordable, our answer is the Coastal Futures Collabs. This is a project that addresses a growing national crisis, which is the threat to coastal communities, a threat to those natural values. Our Coastal Collabs project is based on sound science around the importance of connection with nature and the well-being that comes from that, but also the value and innate benefits of working with the community to protect the place that you care about most. This is a project that integrates 3 different types of infrastructure: blue, green, social, and governance. And instead of doing them in isolation, they're happening all at once. It's not just a concept. This is one built on partnerships. It's quite real. I'm actively doing this every single day, but it's also a project that can be scaled up across Australia because we have around 200 plus coastal LGAs. And so this is a project that all of them can sort of wrap their heads around and start to action. When it comes to the affordability of this project, we've costed it out to be around $10,000 to $15,000, which is about the cost of about 5 meters of seawall, 5 meters that wouldn't even actually protect a single house. And while we're not actively advocating against seawalls, we're just advocating for a way to approach these challenges that actually builds capacity for community, brings them deeper connection to place, and helps deal with one of the larger challenges, which is the general sort of concerns with the governance that's happening in these areas. So at the core, this project seeks to replace despair with agency, replace isolation with connection, and get rid of the governance paralysis that we seem to have with a collaborative, active approach. And as the Garden Island Sands community said, with a little bit of assistance, a dedicated community can actually be the model for change for all of Australia. So I think we've got a little reference slide and we will end there.
Dedicated community can be an agent for change. You heard it here first, everybody, from Team Coastal Futures Collabs. I think you might have adjusted your pitch name accordingly. That is very catchy. Team, reflecting on your pitch, let's talk about all things infrastructure, which was this year's theme. Your pitch highlighted governance infrastructure, social infrastructure, and blue-green infrastructure. I love a great Venn diagram. Thank you. How has your appreciation of infrastructure evolved over the challenge as you've tackled this particular wicked problem?
I'll go ahead and answer that. I think it's been really interesting for us to go beyond the typical understanding of infrastructure being something physical that you can see or that is built, and instead really understanding that infrastructure can also be social or more like natural-based solutions like blue-green infrastructure, and really expanding that concept. And I think infrastructure captures it well, because then we can look at all these different elements and really have a holistic approach to solving these problems.
High five from me, Bianca. I'm biased as an engineer. I have really enjoyed thinking holistically about infrastructure through this challenge. I wonder what might be the first next step for someone watching this presentation from one of those 200 plus local governments around Australia that have a coastline. How could they do the next step to use this Collabs toolkit to go from despair to agency and isolation to connection?
I think for me, and I probably, on the day made this really clear, which is we wouldn't have had this project at all without having the Garden Island Sands community be as active and engaged, and the term I use, inspirational. So they've inspired me. They inspired me to sort of put this problem out there. They inspired the rest of the Center for Marine Socioecology folks to come up with this idea. They inspired us to pitch to the disaster challenge. So for those LGAs, it's finding those communities that already have sort of an energy and an awareness saying, we can see something's happening. A lot of our communities, councils everywhere see this, they hear it from their communities, that they see the change, they're seeing something happen. What can we do about it? And once you find those communities, it's really easy to sort of start to keep the momentum going and saying, let's keep prodding and searching for what comes next. And I think even this, at the beginning of this week, after the disaster challenge was met with the community, and all of them said this week that they actually have a little bit of hope for the future. So the first time they've said that in probably 5 years, which I don't think that's about us, it's about them and the effort they're putting in, but they're feeling that back from council now. They're feeling it from the researchers who are looking at them. And that's, once you get that momentum going, I think that will help build the resilience over time.
Wow, thank you, Malcolm. Indeed, I'm right there beside you with cheer squad hat on from NHRA in recognising this particular pitch this year as being the one that we take forward as the main cheer squad, and also the 3 finalist teams collectively. What a brilliant job you've all done today, and we look forward to promoting your pitch ideas accordingly. I will ask everyone to come join the panelist as in activating your video for the last 10 minutes of this webinar. And I have 2 questions for the pitch teams. So if someone from each team could answer each question, please, reasonably rapidly so we can finish on time. The first question is, what's the biggest thing you've learnt as a team through the disaster challenge about taking ideas into something that people can use?
Yeah, I think the key is making something that people actually want to use. So in the prototype tool, my own experience, I was spending lots of time developing these functions, but then others were telling me, this is interesting to you, but to an end user of this tool, maybe it's not really that useful. So it's about knowing what your audience actually needs. I think that's something that I definitely learned.
Oh, so inspiring, Ryan. Indeed, have gone through that journey myself. Any other insights?
I think one thing that we've really learned is it's great to have these like frameworks, for example, that we make. The tricky part is always making it something practical and real for people. And so I think it is worth spending a lot of time like talking to communities and seeing what they really need to make sure you're able to translate those kind of high in the sky ideas into something that would be helpful and practical for them.
Indeed, Bianca, I've heard you talk with Malcolm before about that evidence slide that you had at the end. So you're not fatiguing community, you're also using research that's already out there. And then you found a community that was actually self-advocating already, and they had the energy to engage with researchers and enable that as the case study to then share outwards. Perhaps other communities are a bit more fatigued and or don't have the bandwidth to engage with researchers. So you've found a sweet spot to be able to do that. So yeah, really interesting. Thank you. Team Verge to Vital.
I think it was a great opportunity to bring people together. You know, throughout this challenge, we got to speak with community members, but also members of the council, and it was interesting to see how they recognise the problem, but they were often just like in their own community, or the council has one idea, or the community has one idea, and I felt like we were kind of acting as the bridge and bringing these people together. So I thought that was really valuable.
Thank you, Anjali. Right, second question. You're doing fabulously with your answers. We're going to talk about taking this pitch to practice concept that we've focused this webinar on, and we're going to imagine ourselves 1 year into the future. So what are we? Mid-October, just having passed the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction in 2026. And we're looking back at the year. What is one thing that will have happened that will have taken your idea into reality?
I think throughout this project, we have like really built a prototype for the app. So I think in the future for 1 year, I think we want to push this further. So we want to make it real, and then to collaborate with different parties and different people to try to feed in data into the app, and then try to give people start using it like in real life. So we want to make it our pitch very useful, and then give people have a chance to explore and use these kind of tools that can bridge the community and council together.
Great, thank you. If you're listening out there and you think you can help make that happen, be in contact. We are the amplification of the idea, and HRA is ready to enable the teams to work with whoever to make it happen. So be in contact. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think 1 year into the future, I did talk about lots of functions that I would like to enable through this kind of tool. So personally, my own background is not in flooding. So if I was able to work with other researchers or developers who do have expertise in this area, then I think we could combine our skill sets together to develop all these functions, which I talked about during my pitch.
Ryan, did I just hear you say you'd love for other researchers to reach out to you if they have been thinking about something similar and they'd potentially like to form a band, a Digital Earth band equivalent, that could be fun, as well as perhaps an entity that might be wanting to use what you've done? Perhaps there are some other local government areas who would like to be another case study or have a go at putting in data. Oh, how interesting, in the next year. Okay, put it out there. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in with the last bit. So like I sort of alluded to today and on the presentation day, this is a real project for me at council. You know, and we're already actively planning the first working bee. We're reaching out to people. I sort of gave the rest of my CMS team, said, you know, you've done an amazing job of getting us to here. If you want to step away now, you don't worry. I can keep driving it, but all of them sort of emailed me and said, no, we want to keep it going. We're really excited to see this action. So that means we sort of have the research support to at least do this pilot. And in a year, that's enough time for us to have run the 3 sessions and enough time to have assessed it to put our MARI into effect, our monitoring, evaluation, reporting, and then gives us an opportunity to actually say, well, how can we improve this? How can we implement it further? In Huon Valley, we have at least 2 other communities that we'll probably run the exact same program for after we've done our monitoring and evaluation. We've heard from a couple of other councils in Tassie who are already interested, so that's pretty quick. Hoping to hear from councils across Australia, because the only way a pilot like this actually takes off and becomes sort of everyday practice, as your question is by councils testing it, trying it, figuring out what works, figuring out what doesn't work, and letting us find a way to create a framework that works for every community, but works in place with those communities. So this solution for us has always been perfect for Garden Island Sands. Might not be perfect for everywhere else, but with some nice tweaks, some nice monitoring of this, we can actually make something that is a tool and a good resource that can exist somewhere like on Coast Adapt or one of the other resources that really amplify this and build that coastal resilience that we desperately need in Australia.
Amazing, Malcolm. I think that's the perfect place to end the panel conversation for today at the webinar for this year's Disaster Challenge. A big virtual round of applause from across Australia and internationally from our dial-ins to this webinar. You guys have done such a brilliant job in daring to imagine what could be possible from a really local context and then thinking about how that could be amplified and scaled up nationally to provide communities around the country with hope, agency, and an activation opportunity to be more resilient, safer, and sustainable into the future. So thank you all. I just have some closing notes. You are so welcome to stay on camera while I do that. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to our marvelous Disaster Challenge working group around the country. We've had 9 fabulous academics and practitioners mentor the teams through this year. And thank you to our judging panel in Tasmania who had the hard decision and reams of paperwork to justify how they ultimately ended up with the winning team. They all commented your scores were so close, and they're looking forward to giving you that feedback in our upcoming feedback session. So all good. The recording of the webinar will be online next week, and you'll all receive an email with the link alongside information about our upcoming hazardous webinars. Our next webinar, stay tuned. They're always free. They're always amazing. 19th of November on emergency management, sustainable volunteering. For updates on everything Natural Hazards Research Australia, sign up to our newsletter, follow us on social media. Thank you and see you next time.